So starting from the kind of global impacts, we have climate change driven by fossil fuels, wasteful systems that continue to adversely affect our environment, our society, and our economy. In New York City, those impacts of climate extremes have resulted in flooding, blackouts, health emergencies, and damage to public infrastructure. That, combined with rising energy demands and inefficient buildings, increasingly strain the grid, furthering blackouts and economic stress. These burdens fall disproportionately on frontline communities who are forced to absorb the hidden costs of inaction. Unless we rethink the built environment, our city will become increasingly unsustainable, unaffordable, and socially unequal. Then kind of reframing that into an empirical point of view, we have 70% of our energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions that are attributed to commercial and residential buildings. And further kind of zooming into how that translates to a single individual or a single apartment unit, we pretty much consume more or less 3,000 kilowatts per year of electricity. About half of that goes to heating and cooling costs. So a lot of progress can be made when tackling efficiencies, building efficiencies, and building performance. And to put that into kind of a square footage point of view, it's about 144 square feet of solar panels that we need per apartment unit. Of course, that means we need our rooftops and we need public space canopies in order to kind of yield the total quantity, if that's a goal. And then the scale of impact, zooming from the single apartment unit to the building scale to the community scale, and kind of unlocking all the symbiosis between those kind of user groups. Starting with the apartment toolkit, we have efficient heating, cooling, and ventilation systems, energy efficient appliances, batteries to alleviate peak time consumption. At the building scale, we have exterior renovations such as rooftop PV, facade improvements, window improvements, interior heat pumps, energy recovery, and down to the kind of landscape and urban materials, permeable pavements, stormwater caption, and increased vegetation, all to kind of help efficiency and supply. And then scaling out to the community scale, just a single block. Once you combine these in aggregate, then you kind of have a ecosystem of energy where you can kind of share and provide power to the grid, alleviating peak time demand and keeping everything running and keeping everyone comfortable in their living spaces. So looking at the site, we're here, of course, in the Lower East Side and Lower East Side, and we are looking at the Avenue A substation, which covers roughly from 14th Street down to Canal and from Broadway to FDR. Arthur and Grace are going to share a handful of pilot sites where we've been collaborating to implement some of these energy improvements and building retrofit improvements. You can see the list of pilot sites that we have here. I'll welcome Arthur to share some of the work that he's been doing, and Grace as well, following him.
So I'll be talking about some of the housing typologies we've been looking at. First, we've been looking at the garage and NYCHA housing adjacent to the Loisaida Center. And right now, we're going to look at kind of the kind of outer shell, the kind of more facade or solar canopy retrofits. We're still in development of more kind of internal building retrofit. But so these are just kind of imaginings of before and after. So to kind of utilize the kind of square footage that we have on the rooftops, especially something where like the NYPD garage is this massive surface that's just completely vacant, could be optimized by putting solar panels on the top and providing electricity towards and aggregate them to local housing. And yeah, so this is a planometric view of this imagined solar canopy on the LES3 and NYPD police station, and you could see Loisida on the edge there. Another typology we've been looking at is the kind of dumbbell tenement housing that we see often in the Lower East Side. This is 377 East 10th Street. It's a building that's already been retrofitted, but it still is having difficulty, especially with cooling, as the building was only retrofit mainly for heating. But again, this is the kind of external look that we could imagine: solar canopies on the rooftop to kind of, this is a planometric view. And although we haven't fully realized what we could do in the interiors, it's all kind of modeled and ready. So we've constructed these shells, so through collaboration with the energy modeling team, and hopefully maybe these models could be brought to Cooper Union as well for future studies. But we've actually visited these sites and have kind of located different mechanical systems embedded into these buildings. So as we said, this building has already been retrofit. So there's an ERV system, a natural gas boiler. It's not, the kind of electric battery or connected to the solar canopies that we hope to bring forward in the future, but these are the kind of systems that are in this building, and also water panel radiators, which are better than steam-powered radiators. In terms of site documentation, this is just an example of some of the things we do. We often go to these sites. We're grateful for Professor Baglione here. We visited 220 East 10th Street, and this was the kind of cellar space. So this building, the boiler, is located at the basement, as most buildings do. But actually, 377 East 10th Street, because they're closer to a flood zone, they relocated their boiler space to the rooftop. So this is just process documentation. Now we're going to move on to Dry Dock Park, so I'm going to pass it on to Grace.
Hi, so we've also been focusing on public typologies with and looking at the Dry Dock Park basketball court and swimming pool building. So here we have an elevation of the building with a solar canopy elevated, where we could also use the rooftop of the building as a community garden, and bringing kind of shade also for people downstairs with around the swimming pool area, but also having some kind of ways to think also about the water and electric storage units. So here we're looking at a section of the canopy where we have in between each panels we have gutters that gets kind of catch water, storm water, and goes in the basement downstairs. That keeps the catchment in the water in tanks, but also allows for electric storage and battery through the float batteries in the basement. So these are all the models that we've been kind of focusing on, and we're still developing more pilot buildings and parks. That's it. Thank you.